Thank you for your patience if you were hanging out. Dr. James Petrick, Prior Lake Spinal Care, coming at you live. Thanks for your patience with my voice tonight. I'm not sure what's going to run out first, if it's going to be my voice, although it's doing a lot better than it was last week, or my live hookup feed setup streaming something. That's what I was fumbling around with, so that's why I'm a few minutes late here for our live stream, which is supposed to start at 7 o'clock. So in case if I get disconnected, there's been some Wi-Fi issues here today. I promise I'll get hooked back up as soon as I can, but it might be a 5-minute intermission. Just enough time for the Zamboni to come out onto the ice. Now, what are we talking about? This is the bookend of a 4-week, 4-part video series in which I'm thrilled to talk about the 3 I's. Innate intelligence or inborn intelligence. That's our secret sauce. That's how we get our results in chiropractic. Removing nerve interference that your body can better communicate with itself to bring about a change, to feel better, to heal better, and to function maximally. It's the innate intelligence or inborn intelligence. We've been talking about a lot of things. We've been educating you, and that's the educated intelligence. But tonight we're going to talk a little bit about that yet with our posture and mobility and a little bit of sleep and energy. But to cap things off, we're going to be talking in a little bit more detail about the artificial intelligence. Now, the screenshot or the logo or symbol that represents what we're talking about here during these live streams, as you can see down on the bottom, we have these sort of robotic kind of algorithm sort of derived caricatures or cartoons from this little USB symbol. And the idea is we're talking about inborn intelligence. We want to have that connected brain to body. But we want to learn, we want to be built up through what we learn. You gotta know a little bit about a lot in order to navigate this confusing, ever fast changing world. To know a little bit about a lot, in case you make a wrong decision, hey, you can pick up the pieces and then keep on moving along. But then the artificial intelligence is really the key to giving us the exponential change to not only get better in our health and maintain our health as we get older, but also to make our lives that much more rewarding. Here we like to talk about resilience, optimus, and integration. The abbreviation being ROI. So you can see that across there. Resilience, optimus, integration. ROI. Very resourceful. We want you to get as much out of your time, your effort, your energy as possible when you invest with us. And so much of that comes down to your body's own inherent resilience. Your ability to optimize or to be firing on all 4 cylinders, that upgraded you, that version of yourself where you know you're kind of functioning from your genius, in which those 4 cylinders, namely what we're talking about, posture, energy, mobility, mental clarity, stress, adaptation, sleep, and energy, there's a natural balance there, isn't there, when you are firing on all 4 cylinders. So we want to magnify them, we want to express them so that you can be enriched, and since other people are counting on you as well, we want them to notice the positive difference in your life as well. So this section right now, we're going to be talking about posture and mobility. And so this is really about optimizing our body's framework, this physical shell, right? So if we're spiritual beings and we have a mind, then we're talking about this physical shell of which we motor around in, whether it be 10 years or 10 more years or 80 years, or we don't know how long we're going to be here. But what we do know is that this physical shell can get a little bit healthier. It can get a little bit better tomorrow. It can get a little bit better the next week and the next week and so on. Yeah, there's entropy. There's destructive things that are breaking us down all the time. But we can maximize our constructive, inherent, inborn forces in order to offset the degenerative effects over time. I really like to think in terms of physics because it allows for good visual aids, and I think everybody can grasp that. So I'll be referring back to those examples a little bit today as well. So when we're talking about posture mobility, you might think of exercise. And whenever we roll out on a new exercise program, it's wise to really consider the costs. Not just the financial cost, but the cost of making a commitment. Because if we don't follow through on it, it kind of takes a little hit at our self-esteem, doesn't it? I tried that, the going got tough, my schedule got busy, it got crowded, and then I wasn't compliant, and then kind of feel bad about myself a week or two later, and I didn't really reach my goal. Why did I even set a goal in the first place? I knew I wouldn't have done it. I should have thought harder. See what I mean? So before rolling out on any type of thing that's going to affect your lifestyle and exercise program, you want to, I think, really consider the reasons why you would want to do it. Because if you have enough internal leverage, enough reasons for doing it, then when it starts snowing out, when the car isn't working the best, when you thought you did laundry but you don't have any clean shorts to wear to the gym, when these different obstacles come in, when people's schedules get overlapped, we got to be fueled with enough reason to go out there and do it. But we also have to keep it real and think, okay, well, I missed that day or that day. No big deal. Don't beat yourself up. As we're going to be talking about here in algorithms, we want you to become an optimizing robot, an OptiBot. So like my iPad here or any technology, anything that hooks into the wall, computer, it learns. Artificial intelligence learns. It doesn't get emotional. So we want to be of the mindset win or learn. Win and keep on doing it, keep on using that algorithm, keep on, consciously using that willpower until it becomes a habit where you don't even have to think about it anymore. But in the meanwhile, realize that, hey, we're learning and we can modify, we can change our algorithm ever so slightly, right? So we talked before about this example. I know it's kind of it's a symbol. I mean, this is a nerve cell, right? This is a tree. You got branches underground. You got the root, or above ground. You got the root system underground. And then here we have our little connection device. And we can modify the prongs of these algorithms over time. So it's an unemotional experience. Okay, but of course, with our busyness, we want to get efficient exercise. We want to address the fact that, hey, you probably sit at a desk, all day, or certainly more than our ancestors did a couple, 200, 300, 400 years ago. And because of that, there's some predictable areas of breakdown with the forward head posture, with the shoulders going forward, with the lower abs area slouching, weakness in the lower abs, weakness in the lower back. So I think all of our exercise should address this somewhat, but we really want to be hitting on three main things. That's cardio, getting that heart rate up, getting the blood flowing, and yoga can even be part of that if it's getting the blood flowing. Myofascial release using a foam roll like this, that is a form of cardiovascular exercise. There's not really any strengthening with it. There's really not any fine motor movements or any skill development, balance part of the body that we have to use, which really stimulates a certain part of the brain, which actually stimulates your hippocampus, which actually helps you to think more clearly. So exercise should be include three things. It should be cardiovascular, it should be strengthening, it should be endurance as well, or fine motor movement. Endurance would be cardiovascular, fine motor movements. Excuse me. Still getting my voice back. So if you only have a few minutes out of the day, really the best thing that you can do is a kettlebell swing. Now, I didn't bring my kettlebell here today, but as you can imagine, this is my friend Dr. Jamie Kaiser, my former chiropractor in the San Diego area. He's got a beautiful overlook in his backyard. The beach is back there, and he's got the mountainous view back. And it was really fresh air and everything. I really miss it, actually. But what he's done is he's taken a kettlebell which you can do a kettlebell swing. Let me see if I can demonstrate. I'm going to use this part of my headrest here. Let's get him off of there for now. All right, but just imagine you got like this cannonball with a handle on it. The kettlebell swing, you're taking it and you're swinging it out like this. You got your legs spread out, all right? Legs are spread out. And you're swinging it, boom. And you swing it like this, You swing it like this, And you have this rhythm, you're popping it with your hips somewhat, and you're also getting an arm workout. But what I really like about it is you have to use every muscle in your spine, your spinal extensor muscles. So there's the neurological or the balance component of it. You have to pay attention to what you're doing, otherwise you're going to drop the thing on your foot. Obviously, there's the endurance aspect of it because you can do it as long as you want, and you're going to be really tired even within a couple of minutes of doing it. But there's also the strengthening, right? The testosterone cultivating grunt, depending on how heavy the kettlebell actually is. And that's not just a male thing, that's a female thing as well. And it's a healthy thing to cultivate that through, because you can't necessarily drink or eat testosterone, but it's a chemical that is important in healing up from the effects of gravity, and there's a lot of research behind it, and I don't have any more time to talk about it right now. But if you only got a couple of minutes, that kettlebell swing is incredible. Most people could probably benefit from a 20-pound kettlebell. Next point. I want to introduce you some. This is something that I had right before COVID. I call it the posture decompression system. And this is directly to deal with this sort of problem, right? Predictably, people's heads get on straight after being under care for a while, but they can still have some weak areas and tight muscles and connective tissues, the fascia that holds actually the muscle together. And so what I developed is some cushion supports, non-slip surface. So it's an open cell foam, which actually brings down the price. We don't have to put an expensive fabric around it. And there's various positions that a person could do to help improve actually their posture. Posture, remember, is a subconscious phenomenon, right? I could say sit up tall, and you could do that. But if I asked you a complicated math problem, since your mind can only think about one thing at a time, your posture slowly starts to break down once again. So with chiropractic and with these supports, the idea is to gradually improve a person's posture and to use leverage and correct placement and timing, because you can do a stretch, you can do a child's pose, for example, in yoga, and you can get a good stretch for your mid-back. But you're limited by how much pressure you can actually put into your shoulders while you're doing that stretch. So this one under here, this is my former staff person, Isabel, who lives in Texas now. She's doing a kind of like a child's pose or a downward dog, but she's actually suspended there because the foam supports are supporting her chest and her hips and her lower legs. Excuse me. And she's able to be in that position for like 10 minutes, which allows the blood flow to get into not just the muscles, but also the connective tissues and ligaments. There's a seating cushion that forces your hips to into a slightly forward position, which allows your spine to be more upright. And then after a while, you can take that, and as pictured here, you can take that same foam support and press it up against your mid-back, and you have this dynamic balance throughout the day. Instead of just sitting on a wobble cushion, you could lean back against the foam, and it gives a nice support for this part of your spine, which is an often neglected area. People use lumbar or lower back supports, but then what about this mid area, which we compress farther, so it kind of pushes in to keep you nice and upright. And then on the back as well in the sort of zero gravity position. So we had names for all these. We had the London Guard, we had the Skydive, we had the Scold, sit up tall, the Scold, and we also had the Rocket Man position. All that to say, people in San Diego were very happy with it, but COVID came around, and the storm that affected Texas a year and a half ago really messed up the production costs of it. Hopefully we'll be able to reel that out again at some point in the future. So I want to give a plug here for my buddy's kettlebell. It's actually called A Better Bell, and I think you can go to abetterbell.com and order it. Basically, it's a kettlebell, but it's super cool. He's figured out a way to hollow out the inside, and now you can do arm curls with it. You can do military press with it, and it's super cool. I think they come in 10 maybe 15, 20, 40-pound increments, and it's a really, really cool product. abetterbell.com, I believe. And of course, you can do push-ups as well with it. Use the little handles without hyperextending your wrists like that. All right. So I want to talk about something called primal pattern movements. The idea is that a few hundred years ago, if you're in a hunter-gatherer culture, if you broke your leg or you really injured your spine, that could mean you're dead. Because you have to eat. And if you can't run, okay, that top picture, gait. If you can't run, jog, or walk to try to find your food, you're going to starve. If you can't squat to bend down to cook your food, you're going to starve. If you can't push, in this case, a boulder to help make your fireplace, you're going to starve. If you can't pull your animal through the forest, you're going to starve. If you can't lunge, right, and pick up that animal, you're going to starve. If you can't rotate like this and throw, you're going to starve. If you can't bend over to cook your food, you're going to starve. So there's these movements, the twisting, the bending, the turning, the squatting, the pulling, the gait, and the lunging. You know, if you get into your car, you're doing like 5 of those movements. Think about it. You got to squat a little bit, you got to bend, you got to turn, you got to lunge. And how many of us can do that with actual perfect form if I actually put the camera on you? So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, now the first couple of presentations that we did, we talked about the importance of getting a firm grip on our emotions, literally. Just like if you're a javelin thrower, you'd grip in the middle in order to throw the farthest, to have the best trajectory. And our feelings or our emotions are from our original thoughts. So T leads to the F, or the feelings, and our feelings create our actions or our behaviors or our results that we're getting in life, right? So if we can really explore, get a firm grip on our emotions, it's very empowering because we know how we got there and where we're going. And that's my segue now into talking about something called algorithms. Algorithms, what's that? Well, remember, we talked about innate or inborn intelligence. We also talked about educated intelligence. And now we're talking about algorithms or artificial intelligence, right? This is the last fourth of our series, which we're talking about sleep and energy. And so what I want to just cover with that briefly is, sleep. Obviously, you want to shut off the phone and the computer an hour at least. Better yet would be 2 hours right before bedtime, right? Some cultures in the world, they believe that their day starts at night. So you have a good routine. You have an algorithm for when you try to go to bed. For us, we try to aim for everybody having their teeth brushed and having their bedtime personal routine so that we can have our family routine at about 9 o'clock. For some reason, it rarely works out that way. But if we didn't have that goal, we'd be worse off, and we wouldn't have a set in stone bedtime, and we wouldn't have our teeth brushed on time. You know what I mean? So there's that ideal, although there's the real world. Okay. But obviously, that's one kind of algorithm, is having good sleep. When you wake up, you can have a good day. Because if you don't have energy, it doesn't matter. You could have the perfect routine. You could have the perfect resources. You could have the perfect plan. But if you don't have enough sleep, you're already messing up the first kind of algorithm in the day, so to speak. But we want to honor that and make sure that we're getting that at night. So Dr. Lofton's giving a lecture over there. We'll just kind of try to talk over him. What we want you to become is an optimizing robot, an unemotional, in a way, where you win or you learn. You try something, and if it's either going to be in line with your own idiosyncrasies or not. How do you know it's working? You're getting stuff done. Meanwhile, you're happy, right? You don't want to feel like you're being, scolded by a taskmaster. You want to implement systems, implementation intentions. That's what an algorithm is, so that you can be happy, feel on purpose. We're naturally teleological beings, right? We're target focused, we're target directed. But the better we have an algorithm, the more clearly defined that is, the more we get knocked off track, so to speak, in life, the quicker, the better, the faster, the more efficiently we can have equanimity, or we can get balanced, we can be back on track. I want to read some quotes now about algorithms. If we want to understand our lives up to this point, actually, this isn't a quote, this is mine. If we want to understand our lives up to this point, which is why journaling is so awesome, and make sense of our future, we should make every effort to understand what an algorithm is. And I think my other camera just went out, so I'm just going to come on to mine now. This will be a kind of a funny view. There we go. You still with me? All right. Got my hand in the way. There's a disrupt with my other camera. I thought that might happen because we've been having Wi-Fi problems all day. So I'm going to reread this quote here. If we want to understand our lives up to this point, which is why journaling is so important, and make sense of our future, we should make every effort to understand what an algorithm is and how they're related to our emotions. Okay? So here's what an algorithm is. Here's this fancy word, algorithm. An algorithm is a methodical set of steps that can be used to make calculations, resolve problems, and reach decisions. Here's a simple one. I wake up and I go to the bathroom. Well, you say, Dr. Petrik, is that really necessary? Do you have to say that that's an algorithm? I mean, you just don't even think about it. You just do it. Yeah, exactly. You don't even think about it. But did you know that somebody else had to think about it for you? There's a lot of willpower, a lot of late nights, changing your diapers, cost of diapers, patience with you, the everything that's inconvenient about diapers and teaching somebody to be potty trained. That was all an algorithm so that you, at some point, you learn how to flush the toilet and lift the lid and all that stuff, so that you can do that the right way without even thinking about it, right? But you wake up and right away there's an algorithm. That's a silly example, but it's an algorithm. It helps you so that you have to decide to do something less and less, to free up your mind to focus on the rest of the day or something else going on in the future. Okay? So it's an if-then statement. It sounds simple, but consider, I already talked about that. It's a methodical set of steps that can be used to make calculations, resolve problems, and reach decisions. Okay? So algorithms help you to get into rhythm over the course of the day. Better put up my little music note here. There you go. Algorithms help you to stay in rhythm throughout the course of the day so that you have to make less and less decisions. All right, so we talked about the potty training example of an algorithm, but now let's talk about this. Who's this? Get myself out of the way here. So this here is a football player. I apologize. I usually have a different camera doing this, but that camera is not. I got to coordinate. This is very counterintuitive. Very counterintuitive. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is a football player, LaDainian Tomlinson. This is so weird. I apologize for this, guys. There we go. Well, all right, so you can see the side of my face. So LaDainian Tomlinson, seeing farther downfield. I had a patient down here. He's that linebacker playing for the Jaguars. He said that LaDainian Tomlinson was the toughest player in the NFL to tackle. And LT, they called him, had a very rogue, very unique training program. He worked with this guy named Todd Durkin, who was a firm believer in the teaching that I just gave you on the primal pattern movements of squatting, bending, turning, twisting, and all that. So what he would do is he would break it down to the ridiculous. And here's LT standing on a wobble board, standing on an unbalanced surface, just striking a pose, being in that position for a couple of minutes at a time until his muscles would absolutely fatigue. But what he was doing is he was getting himself mentally to the point that he would break a tackle, just like you see in that upper left picture. He broke the tackle from the linebacker. Now he's focused on what he's going to do to try to deke out that safety, that defensive back. And I think that's a relevant example in life where we want to be able to shine our lights way downfield. And algorithms are certainly one way to help us to do that. We can always modify our algorithms. We can piece them together. It is a conscious way to use our own willpower to install a habit. Just like a computer, you download something and you install it. Well, with a computer, you just click the button, but in the way the brain works, we need repetition, 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 repetition. Oftentimes, authority source telling us what to do. And, there's a lot of different ways to get into our subconscious mind, but the subconscious mind is most open to suggestion right away, first thing in the morning, as well as in the evening. So one of the most helpful things is you have a list of goals and maybe your roles, right, in life, and to connect them, to integrate them, and to listen to them even on your phone. Everybody has a voice memo recorder, or if not, you can easily download one and install it into your phone so you can listen to your own voice as you're going to sleep. And these are very powerful. Advertisers use this on you, so we want to encourage you to use this on you. This authority source, like your name is, these I am statements, they're very, very powerful when used with a certain rhythm. And, it's kind of pragmatic or maybe superficial to have merely a list of goals without some character trait attached to it. So it's not just the means justifying the ends, it's also the other way around. So there may be some characteristics. What are the virtues that you value, right? Of wisdom, of being purpose-driven, of having targets, of being kind, encouraging, loving, to shine with enthusiasm. See, these little things that are on paper, these little dots that you can connect, it's dead as you look at it. It's nothing. It's just static. It's just a symbol. It's just a picture. It's nothing. But if you can put it in front of you in such a way that actually inspires you, and you can connect that and you can create a habit and do it 21 days in a row, now you have a habit. You don't have to think about it anymore. Okay? And if you have this stuff listed on paper, on a chart, on a wall, then you can easily make modifications over time. Okay? So well thought algorithms help us to implement what we intend to get done. We all have algorithms or formulas from which we do things. The question is it by default? Is it by somebody else or some other company or some other structure out there that's imposing it on you? Or are you empowered to do it yourself? Okay? Such as, here's an ad, feel this way, buy this product to fill this mysterious emotional void that was just created by this clever ad. Right? Here's an example of a faulty algorithm, which you can certainly discover. I'd encourage you, just sit there and ask yourself, why do I do the things that I do? Why do why do I do it that way? And just list it out. I heard a story a few years back about, it was Easter, and this family would always have ham on Easter. And the house was crowded with people, and there was three generations at least there. There was a 20-something newlywed woman and her mom who was 50-something, and then grandma there who was 80-something. And and they were wondering, why did you cut the ends of the ham off? Somebody asked the young lady this. She said, I don't know, my mom used to do it. And then the mom said, well, I don't know, I do it this way because my mom used to do it. And then they asked the 80-year-old woman, why do you cut the ends of the ham off? And she said, because our oven was so small, we had to cut the ends of the ham off just to put it into the oven to cook it. So that's a funny example, but how many things are you doing now just because your family raised you that way? Maybe there's an upgraded, maybe there's a better way to do it. Maybe you don't need to do it at all. Maybe you need to do it completely different. Maybe if you made just one little change in that, then it could create this sort of activation energy to accomplish that very easily through a couple of upgrades in technology, so that now you can free up your mind to focus, as it were, like this football player example, a little bit more downfield. Get your headlights to shine a little bit farther down the road so that you don't hit a deer like I almost did yesterday, for safety, right? Or for risk management, you might say, but also for that bucket list, also for filling that purpose which you're put here on life to do. And I know that's important for everybody. Okay, so thanks for giving me the opportunity to share. My voice isn't the best, and my camera, my live stream kind of cut out there a little bit. But hopefully you got some ideas here that you can take and work with on your own. If you have any suggestions, if you'd like to hear more about any particular topic, please let me know. Ideally, this sort of a presentation would be live in person and everything, but these are all pretty fresh on my mind. I just want to get out there, and the best way to do that was through this technology on the live stream. And again, thank you for being with me. And if you have any questions, leave it in the comments or shoot